All right. All right. Blessings and shalom to you. So good to be here tonight on this wonderful day that we're celebrating, guys. We are on our biblical time. And so at sunset, we know that it starts a new day. And so, blessings to you. Shalom, guys. Do me a favor, go ahead and thumb up the video and share the live. Thumb up the video and share the live. Guys, if you are interested in knowing about more about these Moedim that we celebrate, they are biblical. If you're interested in knowing more about them, guys, please stay tuned. Invite a friend if you know family members, friends who are interested as well. Guys, make sure you invite them. All right. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. If you want to, turn with me to the book of Leviticus, Leviticus chapter 23. Leviticus chapter 23, and we're going to jump right into this lesson. We wanted to start right on time, and that's exactly what we are doing. Leviticus chapter 23, and we're going to start in verse number 9. Leviticus 23 and verse number 9. All right, so we just finished. If you were with us earlier today, this morning, I wouldn't say finished. We actually have about maybe two more lessons dealing with unleavened bread. However, officially, unleavened bread is over at sunset tonight, which is 7:44 Pacific Standard Time. Okay, some of you who are on the East Coast or who are maybe listening in from different parts of the country, you guys, your Shabbat was over either an hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours ago. All right. And so for us on Pacific Coast time, we are starting a new day. We went through our week of unleavened bread and celebrating the Feast of Unleavened Bread and Pesach. Now, those of you who know people or who are involved in um, Christianity, whether you're a Catholic or a Protestant, you guys are late. You're starting your Easter um, on on tomorrow. And so he already rose, guys. He rose already. And so it's very interesting to see the different dynamics as far as teaching is concerned when you are following the scriptures as opposed to following tradition. All right. So let's look at verse number 9 in Leviticus chapter 23. Guys, go ahead and do me a favor. Once again, thumb up the video, share the live. Um, and go ahead and grab your pens, your paper, your notes. If you're on a computer, guys, wonderful. Go ahead and get your Google Doc or however you take notes. Make sure you go ahead and get that set up and we are ready to go. Do me a favor, guys, for those of you who are coming in, blessings and shalom. Thumb up the video if you can, and share the live. All right. If you give me a second, I do want to share this as well. I thought I had did this already, but I will do this right now. Oh, I'm glad I didn't erase it. All right, so go ahead and thumb up the video, guys, and share the live. Turn with me to the book of to the book of Leviticus, Leviticus chapter 23. And we're going to look at verse number 9. Leviticus 23 and verse number 9. All right. All right. Here we go. Leviticus 23, verse number 9. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When you be come into the land which I give unto you, and you shall read. Now, guys, here's some very key, important passages in these verses. Notice when he says, when you come into the land, that's number one. And when you reap the harvest, number two, then you shall bring a sheaf, number three, of first fruits of your harvest. So you're going to bring a sheaf of your first fruits of your harvest to the priest. And you shall wave the sheaf before the Lord to be accepted for you. Now, here's a very key passage, guys. On the morrow after the Sabbath. So the Sabbath just passed, and we are now into the morrow or tomorrow after the Sabbath. Okay. And so it says here, the priest shall wave it. Verse 12. And you shall offer that day when you shall wave the sheaf and a he lamb without blemish of the first year for a burnt offering unto the Lord, and the meat offering thereof shall be 2/10 deal of fine flour mingled with oil, an offering made by fire unto the Lord for a sweet smelling savor. And the drink offering therefore or thereof shall be of wine a fourth part of a hin. And verse 14, and you shall eat neither bread nor parched corn nor green ears until the selfsame day that you have brought an offering unto your God. It shall be a statute. That's an important word in the Hebrew, guys. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwelling. Okay. Let me see if I can get a little bit more. Let's see. Yeah, let's go to Deuteronomy 16 real quick. So you want to write this one down, Deuteronomy 16. And we're going to start in verse number 9. Actually, let's start at verse 8, because this is referring to the same sequence of Moedim. So 6 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the seventh day shall be a solemn assembly to the Lord thy God. Thou shalt do no work therein. And then it says 7 weeks. Let's pay attention. 7 weeks shalt thou number unto thee. Begin to number the 7 weeks from such time as thou beginnest to put the sickle to the corn. Now, he's referring to Leviticus chapter 23, verse 9. When he says you begin to put the sickle to the corn, that means you begin to harvest the corn. Okay, so he says 7 weeks you shall do this. 7 weeks shall be the number unto thee, and you should begin counting those 7 weeks. Begin the number of the 7 weeks from such time as thou beginnest to put the sickle to the corn. And then he says this, and thou shalt keep the feast of weeks unto the Lord thy God with a tribute of a freewill offering in thy hand, which is a sheaf offering that we read about in Leviticus 23, which thou shalt give unto the Lord thy God according as the Lord thy God has blessed thee. All right. Let's see. Okay. Let me go to, let's go to Numbers. Numbers chapter 28. Numbers 28. And again, if we go to verse 25, what we're going to see is the ending of unleavened bread. And on the seventh day, you shall have a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work. Okay, so this is the ending of unleavened bread. And then it says, also in the day of the first fruits. when you bring a new meat offering unto the Lord, after your weeks be out, you shall have a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work, but you shall offer a burnt offering for a sweet savor unto the Lord, 2 young bullocks. So now they're getting into more detail. Okay. And so, very interesting about offering the offerings that are supposed to be done during this time. Okay. So let's go back to Leviticus because I want to show you something. Okay. I want to show you a couple of things here. If you notice, we started in verse 9. Okay. And then it says this. Notice what it says, guys. In verse 11, it says, and he shall wave the sheaf before the Lord to be accepted for you on the morrow after the Sabbath. Okay. So that's referring to a Sunday, right? It's referring to a Sunday. So let me say this. First fruit, and here's something you may want to write down, and you can go back and check this. First fruit will always be on the day after the last day. No, that's not right. First fruit is going to always be on a Sunday. It's always going to be on the first day of the week. How do we know? Because verse 11, it says this, the morrow after the Sabbath. Now, some of you may be saying, well, what if the end of unleavened bread doesn't fall on a Sabbath? What if it falls on a Tuesday or a Monday or Wednesday? Well, you start after the Sabbath. Okay, so if it falls on a Monday, let's say the end of unleavened bread, that seventh day fell on a Monday. So we would wait until Saturday and then we would do what verse 11 says. The morrow after, notice what it says, Ha Shabbat. Okay, because that definite article is referring to a specific Shabbat, you guys. Okay, and so let's look. Okay, right here, the definite article, Ha. Okay, so if we go over here to our grammar, it's not coming up. Oh, there it is. Okay, if we go over here to our grammar and we look at and click on this, we see that this is the definite article. Okay, there it is right here, the definite article. So let's see what this definite article means. We know what it means in English. The article is used to make a definite or draw attention to nouns and other substantives. The article is either prefixed or suffixed for the word that it's modifying. Okay, so the article here is shown, and it's a definite article, and so that means that it is a specific Shabbat, and in this case, it is. And notice this, guys, too. I want to point this out as well. In the Hebrew, whenever you see this word or marker called et, it's called et. Okay, that's letting you know that. Let me put this in there for you here. Okay, this marker in the Hebrew is letting us know that the main part of the sentence, hold on, is about to be discussed. Okay, and it's the et. All right. And this is introducing, I guess, I'll just say the main subject of the sentence. Okay, it's in the chat, guys. So if you look in the chat, so et ha Shabbat. Okay, et ha Shabbat. Okay, here we are right here. Okay, so this part of the sentence, okay, at this last part of the sentence, it is being introduced. All right, so ha Shabbat, that is the main subject. Okay, so it is always on a Sunday. First fruits is always on the first day of the week. Okay, and it's always on the morrow after the Sabbath, the weekly Sabbath. All right, I wanted to make sure we get that. Okay, so let's go back to the verse here. And so that was verse 11. Now, go down to verse 15 because this is very important. Verse 15. Notice what it says here. Because verse 15 is introducing our next Moedim, which is Pentecost, or as we know it in the Hebrew language, Shavuot. Now, this is important because first fruits is connected to Shavuot. You cannot have first fruits, or sorry, you cannot have Shavuot without knowing first fruits because that's your starting point to count the days until we get to Shavuot. So look at verse 15. And you shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath. Okay. So now he's telling us that we have to count. The Most High is telling us that we have to count now on the morrow after the Sabbath, the same as verse 11. Okay. The morrow after the Sabbath. You give the offering, you waive the offering. The priest, you give it to the priest. The priest is going to waive the offering. And that is a symbol, not to the Jews, but unto the Most High, that you are not only showing dedication, but you are showing commitment. I want to ask one question. When it comes to being true and committed to the scriptures, where's your dedication level? What's your, in other words, what are other things that you put above and beyond your dedication, not just to studying the scriptures on your own, but to walking them out and watch this, to share the scriptures with people in your family and outside of your family? Where is your dedication on that level? All right. Because this is what first fruits is really all about. It's about dedication, dedicating the first fruits of the harvest to the Most High. It's giving Him and dedicating to Him the very things that He's blessed you and I with. All right. So let's go back to 15. And you shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, which is a Sunday. Now, I want you to see this very important distinction. Please write this down in your notes. It says the morrow after the Sabbath. All right. So write the word the Sabbath or the phrase the Sabbath. And I want you to write, be in the chat. So, guys, check the chat out real quick. So you're going to write the Sabbath equals the weekly 7-day Sabbath. Okay. That's one thing. But notice what he says here. From the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, and then he says this, listen carefully. 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. Okay? Now let's look and see what this word Sabbaths is. So notice this, guys. We see Ha Shabbat right here, which is the weekly Sabbath, and then notice the number. But notice this word here. Look at this. Shabbat tot. Shabbat tot. You see the difference? Shabbat tot. And then notice there's no definite article. There's no definite article. There's no ha in front of this. God, this is very important because many people get mixed up, and I thank the Ruach for giving me the insight. This word, Shabbatot, is very similar to Ha Shabbat. Now, somebody say, well, it's just plural. Well, there's a difference. Number one, there's no definite article because it's not referring to a specific Sabbath. Okay. And because remember, definite articles are just like this. Let me just I'm an English teacher. So when I say, can you go, like if your mom, my mom used to ask me all the time when I was younger, guys, how many of you guys have been there? Parents didn't feel like going to the store. We do this to our kids now if you have kids. But your parents used to ask you, go to the store. I knew exactly what store she was talking about. Now, if she said, can you pick up some stuff from the store or from a store, an indefinite article, I could pretty much pick up the stuff from any store I wanted to pick it up from. But if she said, go to the store, I knew that she was telling me to walk to the store that's right down the street from my house. It was a specific store she was referring to. This is kind of similar. Ha Shabbat is a specific Shabbat, but this word, Shabbatot, is referring to 7, because if we look at this word up here above it, Sheva Shabbatot, it's saying just count 7 Sabbaths. 7 is not saying 7 weekly Sabbaths, and you have to wait until Saturday and then count. No. It's saying, I want you to count 7 periods of sevens. Come on and go with me here. Now, when did that period of sevens start? Well, let's go back to our verse. We see it in verse 15, and we see it in verse 11. Okay? He says, you shall count unto you from the morrow after the weekly Sabbath. And so we know that that is the first day of the week, which starts right now because we are already at sunset. And then he says, I want you to count 7 Sabbaths, 7 periods of sevens. Okay? Now, if you go to a calendar, we'll be able to determine biblically when Shavuot should start. So guys, if you have a calendar, go ahead and open up your calendar. We're going to do this in real time. I don't know if you can see my calendar. I got to get better lighting here. You can see it a little bit. You know what? Honestly, I don't even know how to, let me see something. Let me see if I could do this. You know how I am. 2025 calendar. I'm a visual learner as well. And so we're just going to go. Oh, yes. Look at this. Oh, yes. Here we go. Let me show you something, guys. We're going to do this in real time. Okay. So we have, let's go to April 20th. Technically, since the new day starts at sunset, we're already in the 20th. So we need to count 7 Sabbaths, and that will be Shavuot or Pentecost. So we're going to count 7 Sabbaths. So we have one here. The 27th is one. Let's go to May. The 4th is two. The 11th of May, three. The 18th of May, four. The 25th of May, five. The 1st of June, six. June 8th is Shavuot. Okay? June 8th is Shavuot. And just so that I can make sure that we are on the same page, I believe on my feast day chart, I'm going to show you that in just a second. I don't know what's going on with my thing. It's Passover, Firstfruits. Okay, here we go. There we go. Here we go. Now, let me bring this in. Okay, on our feast chart, we have Shavuot right here. Okay, and we have it here, 420, which is technically already today. Someone has a hand up. um, let's see. Did I do that or did someone actually have a hand up? Maybe I did that. I don't know if I did that or not. Um, okay. Second. Oh my, this is funny. All right, so we have here, just like I said, okay, from 420, because sunset has already started. Sunset started the new day. And it's also the morrow after the Sabbath, which is Sunday. 7 Sabbaths will be June 8th. Okay. Now, that is a biblical reckoning, okay, and I even have it right here. I did the study already. Okay. The Sabbath, we have Ha Shabbat compared to Sheva Shabbatot, or Shabbatot. Okay. Complete difference. It means 7 Sabbaths, 7 periods of seven, which means we start with our calendar and we count seven. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. June 8th is Shavuot. Okay. Now, pretty cool stuff, right? This is biblical. It's not rocket science. So let's get into this. as I said earlier, we cannot have Shavuot or Pentecost like Christianity wants to celebrate. You know what? Let me just read from this. You know what? I'm not going to read from that. I'm just going to speak. Why is it that Christianity wants to cherry pick not only the commandments, they're going to do 9 of the 10, except Shabbat, and then they're only going to do one of the feast days, which is Pentecost. Well, and then he, they, here's the thing, guys. They need, in order to calculate Pentecost, you need to acknowledge first fruits because it tells you when to start counting in order to celebrate Pentecost or Shavuot biblically. Okay? And so any attempt to calculate Shavuot without using first fruits or the other Moedim. Now you can't have first fruits without Pesach and unleavened bread. And then you don't know when Pesach and unleavened bread is until you know when the new year, the biblical new year is. Come on and go with me, y'all. And so we really have to start questioning why is it that many pastors decide to ignore and cherry pick the scripture instead of just wholeheartedly being dedicated to the text. Okay. Now, fair use again. Once again, I'm going to go through this really quick. We in good faith, guys. We are any copyrighted material, guys. It is for the purposes of learning, education, and we have the freedom of speech, First Amendment, which is the freedom of speech and the freedom of religion. So, in no way, any of the quotations that are attributed to any of the authors, we're using it for private, uh, monetary gain. It is for the purposes of education, personal use, um, learning, scholarship, etc. All right, here we go. What is first fruits? Okay, what is first fruits? Well, the word Yom Ha Bikurim is what is it's called. It's called Day of First Fruits. However, um, when we look into the Hebrew, first fruits, the actual word is Reshit. Okay, Yom Reshit, and it's associated with Bikurim or fruits, because that is the actual name. But when we look at first in the scriptures, it is Reshit. So we should have Yom Reshit HaBikurim. Okay. It was to be celebrated after the Sabbath following unleavened bread. All right. And it involved an offering of the first sheaf of the barley harvest to the Most High. And it marked the beginning of counting of the Omer or the weeks, 50 days to Shavuot or Pentecost, which is when, incidentally, the same day that the Most High gave the Torah on Mount Sinai. Okay. And so that's pretty interesting too. When we think about Pentecost or Shavuot is the celebration of giving of the Torah, and Christianity celebrates Shavuot, but they don't celebrate the original context in which it was given. Okay. So as we read earlier in Leviticus chapter 23, the question comes up though, is first fruits still required today? And so the reason why is because Leviticus 23:10 says this: when you come into the land. Now, people will look at this and they'll say, well, see, we're not coming into any land. We're not able to give any kind of offering. So why celebrate first fruit? Excellent question. Excellent question. And we as believers have to be able to stand on business and most importantly, the scriptures, and be able to give an answer for the hope that's within us. And so here we go. Yes, I will answer that emphatically. We should still celebrate first fruits, and here's why. Even though it's tied to the promised land and the tabernacle or the temple, and waving the sheaf before the priest. Now, we don't have the land, we don't have the tabernacle or the temple, and there are no priests to give the offering to. So many will say, well, why celebrate it? Well, since the temple is destroyed and we're not all in the land, the literal agricultural command is suspended. It's suspended. We can't do it. Okay. However, even with the literal agricultural command that was given to the Israelites, there was a spiritual significance in doing all of it. Come on and go with me here. And spiritual significance is always tied to every Moedim. Well, let's look at verse 14 in Leviticus 23. Notice what it says here. And you shall eat neither bread, nor parched corn, nor green ears, until the selfsame day that you have brought an offering unto the Most High. It shall be, listen, here's the spiritual. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations and in all your dwellings. So let's look at the spiritual meaning that comes from the word statute. Okay. A statute, a hukat, hukat. Okay. Hukat. What is a hukat? It is an enactment, something that is prescribed for us to do. And look at this. It is appointed for us to do it. And it has a substantial meaning behind it. The spiritual side of this, guys, is related to what we're going to get into in just a moment. We're going to get into this spiritual side. I don't want to get into it right away, but we're going to come back to and go further into why was this commanded and why should it be a statute or an enactment? Why should we redo this in front of our children throughout every generation forever and ever? Why was that such a spiritual significant point that the Most High made? Well, we're going to look at this, and I want to go here. Okay. Why believers should celebrate this today. Again, we mentioned this eternal spiritual ordinance. Okay. We looked at Leviticus 14. It says it's going to be a statute forever, an enactment forever throughout your generations. That means your children, their children should be able to see us doing this so that they will understand. And then we have to give them the reasoning, the biblical reasoning behind why we're doing this enactment. Even though there's no temple, we're not in the land, the commemoration is still a teaching tool for our children and unbelievers. Okay. And then here's, guys, this is the proper use of Colossians 2:16 and 17. Let's go there. Here, I want to show you the proper use. Now, a lot of people use this passage. Christianity, I should say this. Christianity uses this passage to suggest that not following the feast days, no one should judge you. No, my friend. That is not. If it's a statute for all generations, why would you think people would judge you for doing it? That doesn't make any sense. Because remember, this verse is given by Paul, and Paul is writing to the church at Colossae. that was made up of not only Israelites, but Gentiles as well. Now, these Gentiles were coming out of a pagan culture which did not celebrate all of these feast days. They did not celebrate and make holy the Sabbath. So notice what Paul says here. Since it is something that should be celebrated throughout generations, Paul says, let no man therefore judge you in meat. Because remember, there were dietary laws that these new Gentiles were coming into. And now they're going to go back to their families. They're going to go back to people in the community, and they're going to notice that they're doing things differently. And what are these pagans going to do? As I'm going to show you later, they're going to begin to judge you because now you're doing things differently than what they knew before. Isn't that just like your experience? People in your family, your friends, you're not serving, you're not practicing Christianity anymore. And now they're saying, whoa, wait a minute, what is this you're doing? What is this new religion that you are involved in? Why can't you eat pork? And how come you got to do all these things? Why do you have to celebrate Passover and eat at a certain time? And literally, guys, what they're doing is they're comparing what you used to do compared to what you do now. And sometimes they go beyond comparing and they begin to judge you. Come on and go with me. So Paul says to people who were Gentiles, who were coming into the faith and practicing these things that the Israelites were already practicing, they're saying, hey, wait a minute. Everybody's not going to be on board. There are going to be some people who are going to judge you according to your different holy lifestyle of keeping the feast that starts with the Sabbath and all the other Moedim. So Paul writes to encourage the church to let nobody judge you when you begin keeping the feast of the Most High. So he says, let no one judge you in meat or in drink or in respect to any holy day that you are now practicing, or of the new moon that you're now recognizing, or of the Sabbath days that you are practicing now. Now he says this, which are a shadow of things to come, but the body or the substance is of the Messiah. Now, people take this verse and they say, see, the feast days are just a shadow. We don't have to really follow them, you know. But listen, let me say something. Every human, when you're walking in the light, come on and go with me here, has a shadow. Oh, yes. The shadow is a reflection of a literal and real thing that belongs to you. Now, what is the literal and real thing that Paul is referring to here? Remember, we talked about this spiritual significance? Well, every single Moedim is going to be practiced. Oh, you don't believe me? In the New Jerusalem. Oh, come on and go with me here. Let's go to Isaiah. See, I didn't want to go this deep, but let's go. Isaiah 66. Go to Isaiah 66. And let's see. Isaiah 66. Hold on. Yep. 22. Let's start in 21. You know what? You should read Isaiah 66, the entire chapter. For the sake of time, I'm just going to read this little bit here. And I will also take of them for priests and for Levites, saith the Lord. For as the new heavens and the new earth, which I will make, shall remain before me, saith the Lord, shall your seed and your name remain. And it shall come to pass that look at this, that from one new moon to another, what did Colossians say? What did Colossians say? the new moon. Okay. Isaiah is repeating this. Notice he says this, but this is where? In the new heavens and the new earth. He says, from one new moon to another. And what? From one Sabbath to another. Notice this. Shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith the Lord. Okay. Now we know that there are other passages that in the kingdom of the Most High, that many of the Moedim will continue to go forth. Okay. And this is why in verse 21, you should read this entire chapter, because in 21 he says, and I will make also of them for priests and Levites. Why is there going to be a need for priests and Levites in the new heavens and in the new earth? There's going to be a temple. Come on and go with me here. There's going to be priests and Levites. We know that on certain new moons, there were sacrifices given. This is interesting, guys. It is very interesting that I'm gonna definitely make a note to refer back to this. But the proper use of Colossians is saying that first fruits are a prophetic shadow, not an obsolete practice that is done away with. No, it's a prophetic shadow that will be instituted in the new heavens and in the new earth. Okay. Now, our dedication starts with understanding. It doesn't start with emotion, it starts with understanding. Okay. Now, what are we to understand? We need to understand the historical shift away from the Moedim. Okay. The Council of Laodicea in 363 and 364 AD. This council, hold on, which I've shared with many of you before. I just wanted to make sure I'm on track. Okay, so this council, guys, instituted something called canons. And so the Council of Laodicea, held around 363 to 364 in Phrygia, Pacatinia, modern day Turkey, represents syncretism. You may want to look that up if you don't remember what that is. And the shift away from biblical faith to Christianity by the use of canons. Okay? And so we're going to see that these canons were influenced by the imperial court of the Roman Empire. Oh, yes. Emperors definitely had an influence on these canons that bishops created to move believers away from following biblical teachings to following, I would even say, pagan, Roman, cultural, and religious practices as well. We're going to see. Emperors had established a pattern of involvement in church affairs during this time. Remember the Council of Nicaea with Constantine? He was an emperor. He was directly involved in church affairs. Okay, come on and go with me here. Some canons reflect imperial administrative structures and legal concepts that are not even in the Bible. So let's go to, I want to open this up real quick. Let me go back to, and I will put this in this in the website, in the chat, sorry, because I want you to have this. And these are all the canons that were created at The Council of Laodicea. Okay, let's see. When I Google Shavuot, it comes up as June 1st, specifically as a Jewish holiday on the Google calendar. I noticed you have June 1st and June 8th on the Google Doc you showed earlier. Our biblical feast days align with. Well, let's see. Oh, there's a lot going on here. Let's see. Can also be used to as outline. Unfortunately, the translator did not use the word as it would have a really to work keeping the date. Oh, this is interesting. Skia. I wonder where this you found this word. I'm interested in where you found that word skia. Um, and what verse are you referring to there? Now, the Google Calendar, the comments are being made. Google Calendar says it's on the first. Now, we showed that that's not 7 weeks. Did I get rid of? Okay, let's go back. Wait, did I get rid of that calendar? I think I did. Hold on. Yeah. That calendar, the Google Calendar, I mean, if today is first fruits, it's the day after the Sabbath, then we have to ask ourselves, let's count 7 weeks from today. Let's count 7 weeks. Okay. How are they coming up with the first if we just finished celebrating our unleavened bread? We just ended unleavened bread. And then it says the next day after the Sabbath, which is today, we count 7 weeks, 7 Sabbaths. Okay, those are good questions and good points that are being brought up. Um, I'm going to pull the calendar up again because we want to know. We want to be 100%. Okay. Now, if that's just a point to bring to my attention, awesome point. Okay, so today is considered the 20th. And if we count 7 weeks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's the eighth. Okay. Now, today, well, the 19th ended unleavened bread, and it says the day after the Sabbath, which is the 20th, we count 7 weeks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we'll look into it. What can I say? We'll look into it. But according to that calculation, we see it is the seventh. All right. Now, it says here some canons reflect imperial administrative structures and legal concepts. Let's look at canon 12, 13, 42, and 57. And we're going to see that these canons let's see, 12 and 13. Okay, here we go. Canon 12 and 13. Okay. Notice what it says. Now, these canons, guys, they had the authority of the Roman Empire behind them, meaning that if these canons were not followed, there could be judicial punishment and even death. Because the emperor at this time was Julian, and Julian was aware of the disputing between this growing movement called the church. Constantine had already established the unity so that everyone would be on one accord and not have these different views of scripture. Okay, and that's why they decided Easter is going to be the 15th every Sunday, or not every Sunday, but on Sundays. And so Julian, Emperor Julian, sees the same thing. So he wants the church to be on one accord. And this is, guys, this is so deep, which tells us why many of these Gentile rulers, church rulers, got rid of Israelite leaders who kept to and stuck strictly to the scripture. All right. So notice Canon 12. Bishops are to be appointed to the ecclesiastical government by the judgment of the metropolitans and neighboring bishops, after having been long proved both in foundation of their faith and in conversation of an honest life, or in the behavior of an honest life, which sounds good, right? But notice the ecclesiastical, or the government influence on how they chose bishops. They're to be appointed. What happened to being prayed for? What happened to laying on hands and praying and fasting and all of these things? No, it is there to be appointed to the ecclesiastical government by the judgment of the metropolitans and neighboring bishops. Their judgment? What happened to prayer? Okay, so they took on the Roman Empire's administrative structure of how they appointed bishops, which is completely different from what we read in Scripture. Canon 13. The election. Huh? When was the last time you saw an election? Now, somebody may say, well, remember they drew, they cast lots. They cast lots to see if Matthias was going to be the next disciple. Okay, guys, an election and biblical casting of lots is completely different. Okay, this is a vote, just like we see in the Catholic Church today. Okay, the election of those who are to be appointed to the priesthood. Number one, what do they mean priesthood? How do they know? I thought you had to be a Levite. Come on and go with me here in order to be a priest. Oh no. It was according to election. All right? Completely different from scripture. So let's go to 42 and 57. Guys, I want to show you this stuff. Because we're dealing with the structure. Okay, you know what? Let me stop off though. Notice also there was a spiritual sign. I'm gonna get back to the Roman administrative structure, but I want you to see the spiritual significance as well. Notice what Canon 29 says. Christians must not Judaize. Now, how are they Judaizing? Notice what it says, by resting on the Sabbath. They made it a law that you could not rest on Shabbat. Come on and go with me, guys. This is under Julian, but must work on that day. Listen, guys. These are people who say they believe in the scriptures. Okay? Rather honoring the Lord's Day, which is Sunday. And if they can rest, and if they can, resting then as a Christian. Not as, notice what he says, resting as a Christian. That means don't do the same things that the Israelites did on their Shabbat. But if any shall be found to be a Judaizer, that means resting on Shabbat, practicing Torah, let him be anathema. Look at this, y'all, from the Messiah. Guys, if I don't tell you this that these church councils, led by the early church fathers, they didn't bring unity. They brought a sword and they cut out anyone that disagreed with them and put fear into everyone else because they had the authority and the approval of the Roman Empire. Okay. So let's go to 42. None of the priesthood nor of the clergy may travel without letters canonical. What? This is exactly the practice of the Roman Empire and how they regulated the traveling of certain politicians. Okay, they had to have letters that were canonical. That means they had to be approved by an imperial court before they could travel. Okay, and I think the last one was 57. Look at 49 though. During Lent, can someone tell me in the Bible where is Lent spoken of? During the Lent, during Lent, the bread must be offered except on Sabbath day and on the Lord's day only. Okay. So guys, they're completely destroying biblical faith and they're instituting something new called Christianity. Let's go to 57, I believe. 57. Bishops must not be appointed in villages or country districts. Now, what's being said here is that there is a hierarchy. Come on and go with me here. So if you're a bishop in a village or in the country, you don't really know nothing. You're beneath those who are in the cities. Come on and go with me here. That's why they said bishops must not be appointed in villages or country districts. But visitors and those who have been already appointed must do nothing without the consent of the bishop of the what? Of the city. Presbyters in like manner must do nothing without the consent of the bishop that's in the city. Okay? That's smart. That knows more than these country bishops that are trying to tell us. We're going to tell them. Guys, it's not biblical because now they're showing respect to persons who are not from the country and the villages. Okay? Completely destroying biblical faith. Okay? Now, that shows the administrative structures. Some canons show a rejection and a shift away from biblical practices of Yeshua and his disciples. I already showed you those canons. Okay? Um, Now this is going to be interesting because Julian, as I said, he wrote against these biblical practices. Julian against Galileans. Okay? Book 1, paragraph 7. Okay, let me show you this real quick. And we're going to jump right into. So here we are. The author of this at the top, Julian the Apostate against the Galileans. So we're in book 1, and we're going to go to paragraph 7, I think it said. So small. to say paragraph? Yep, paragraph 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Next to consider the views that are correctly held by the Jews, and also those that our fathers handed down to us from the beginning. Our account has in it the immediate creator of the universe, as the following shows. Moses indeed had said nothing whatsoever about the gods who are superior to this creator. That's what Julian thought, guys. Nay, he has not even ventured, talking about Moses, to say anything about the nature of the angels, but that they serve God, he has asserted in many ways and often, but whether they were generated or ungenerated, or whether they were generated by one God and appointed to serve another, or in some other way, he has nowhere said definitely, but he describes fully in what manner the heavens and the earth and all therein were set in order. In part, he says, God ordered them to be, such as, sorry guys, I have to go back and forth like this, the light and the firmament, and in part, he says God made them, such as the heavens and the earth, the sun, the moon, and all the things which already existed, but were hidden away for the time being. He separated such as water, and dry land, but apart from these, he did not venture to say a word about the generation or the making of the Spirit, but only this, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, but whether that Spirit was ungenerated or had been generated or created, he does not make at all clear. So, guys, this is an excerpt showing that Julian, who at the time of this council, and just like Emperor Constantine, who had influence on the Council of Nicaea, Julian and his pagan ideas had influence on the Council of Laodicea. Okay? Now, let's go to this next source, which shows some very interesting stuff, guys, and we're going to move on. You know what? Oh, man. It's 8:52. Okay. Let me rush on. I got to show you this, guys. Okay? So they're commemorating in History Collection. History Collection up here is the source. And they're commemorating this day in history, Christian fanatic, Roman Emperor Jovian Augustus died. So Jovian was the emperor after Julian. But notice what Jovian says here. Guys, this is so... Okay, Jovian was named emperor, an act thought by some scholars, now this is a secondary source, by some scholars to have been the result of a name mix-up. Nonetheless, as a devout Christian, he focused on monotheism. Interesting. Ending pagan practices and reinstating Christianity as the recognized state religion. So, why did he have to reinstate Christianity? Well, because Emperor Julian, during the Laodicean Council, had a huge influence not only on the council, but on Roman society as a whole. Okay, remember Constantine, before Julian in 325, completely changed certain things that were biblical, things like Easter, um, and also there were other things that Emperor Constantine did. However, Jovian had to reinstate Christianity. So we know that Julian had done some things in society to turn around Christianity. Going further than that, he banned religious rites outside Christian practices. Anyone caught worshiping their ancestral gods that Julian had instituted was punished. Okay. And so I'm going to put this in the chat as well so you can read this um, as well. Now, I want to move on and I want to take at least 15 minutes. Give me 15 more minutes. I already showed you the shift away in Canon 29. Oh, I didn't show you 37 and 38 though, did I? Let me show you Canons 37 and 38 real quick. Notice what he says here in 37. It is not lawful to receive, look at what he says. It's not lawful. It's against the law to receive portions sent from the feasts of the Jews. Now remember these portions in what was that feast of the feast of dedication in the book of Esther with Mordecai and Hadassah, when during this feast they were giving portions or gifts of food, sharing. So look, notice what he says here. It is not lawful, it's against the law to receive food sent from the feasts of the Jews. Or notice what he calls, notice the context clue. He's defining Jews when he says or. Guys, this is a huge context clue because he's defining who the Jews were. He's saying that they were heretics. Now, Yeshua was a Jew. Would he be saying, or this council, would they be saying that Yeshua will be a heretic also? So he says, don't receive portions from any of the feasts of the Jews, nor to feast together with them. Canon 38. It is not lawful to receive unleavened bread from Jews. Try, I dare you. Offer some of your family members who don't follow Torah, try to offer them some unleavened bread. Nor to be partakers of their impiety. Now, what he means by their impiety is he's saying any of their feast days, because he already said and labeled them as heretics. So he thought that anything that they were teaching regarding the feast days was impious or unholy. Okay? Guys, you see this tyranny? Now, what I want to get to just really quick is just shift away from giving you an understanding of why these days are not celebrated today and showing you why we need to go back. Okay? And so I want to show you and go back to the spiritual significance. Remember we talked about that, this spiritual significance? Let's go to 1 Corinthians 15. Okay? First Corinthians 15. And we're going to start in verse 20. Here's the spiritual significance. Paul says this, but now is the Messiah risen from the dead and become the first fruits of them that slept. Now, who's he talking about? Of them that slept. Okay. Now, if you read Romans, I'm sorry, not Romans, but Hebrews chapter 11, and all of those that came before the Messiah, he's saying that Yeshua now, because he was raised from the dead, he is now the first fruits of them that slept. Yeshua's resurrection is sort of a beginning of harvesting. Come on and go with me here. Yeshua's resurrection is the beginning of harvesting all of those who die in his name or die believing in the Messiah, in the Mashiach. Okay? Yeshua is now the first fruits of a greater harvest that the Most High is going to harvest in all of those believers who died believing in Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay? Yeshua is the first fruits. Okay? He was the first one to be resurrected from the dead and did not die again. Now, some people may be thinking, well, Lazarus was raised from the dead, but Lazarus died again. Okay? Yeshua is the only one who died, was rose again, and did not die. Okay? So he is the first. And that is a connection to Leviticus 23. Just as the barley sheaf was waved before the Most High as a first fruit, Yeshua raising from the dead, being raised from the dead, presenting himself before the Most High, come on and go with me here, and sitting down on the right hand, and then offering himself as an offering unto the Lord. All right? Now, believers, as I said, will now follow that pattern and will become a kind of first fruit. Let's go to James, the book of James. Are you guys writing these scriptures down? James chapter 1. Guys, this is important. James 1. And let's go down to verse 18. Notice what James says here, or Jacob. Of his own will, he begot he us with the word of truth, that we should be a kind of first fruits of his creatures. So here's the thing about Yeshua. Yeshua is not a creature. Come on and go with me here, because he was not created. But we are a kind of first fruits of all of his creatures. Okay? And so we need to understand that believers, because we are a new creation, we have to yield ourselves, as Romans 12:1 says, we present our bodies as a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to Yah. And so we, as a new creation, we first yield ourselves to the Most High's as a redemptive harvest. Remember the Most High said, or Yeshua said this in Matthew 11, I believe. He said, the harvest is truly plenteous, but the what? The laborers are few. Pray that the Most High will send out workers into his harvest. We, on the other hand, who are already redeemed and are a new creation, are a kind of first fruit. Okay? Which is very interesting. And I believe the reason why is interesting also. Let's go to Romans 8. Because Romans 8 and 23 says something very interesting. This is what Romans 8:23 says. Let's back up. Let's go to 21. Because the creature itself also shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of Yah. For we know that the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together unto now, Paul says. Not just humans, but animals and all of the earth, all creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together until now. And not only they, but ourselves also, which have the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, wanting the adoption to it, the redemption of our body. So look, watch it. Paul is saying that the Ruach Kodesh that's within us. This is interesting. The Ruach Kodesh that's within us is literally a down payment. In other words, it is the first taste of full redemption. It's the first taste. And this is why we groan, we yearn for our glorious liberty, because we are a kind of a first fruit which groans for this liberty to come, because we have the first down payment on our redemption, which is the Ruach Kodesh. Are y'all with me? Can I further drive that home? I want to further drive it. I want to power drive this. Let's go to Ephesians. I know, I get so into this. Ephesians 1. Notice what he says. Let's go to 12. That we should be to the praise of his glory, who first trusted in the Mashiach, in whom you also trusted. After that, you heard the word of truth, the gospel of your salvation, in whom also after that ye believed. You were, listen, remember I said it was a down payment? You were sealed with the Ruach Kodesh of promise. Very interesting, right? Which is the earnest of our inheritance. Now, what does the earnest mean? Okay, it is the earnest of our inhabitants. The earnest, the Arabon. Notice what Arabon means. Money, which in purchases is given as a pledge, or, come on and go with me here, down payment, that the full amount will subsequently be paid. Well, what am I saying? Well, because we are the first fruit, and because we have the Ruach Kodesh, which Ephesians 1:13 says that we are sealed, come on and go with me, until the day of our redemption, that we have now this earnest or this down payment of our inheritance to come. This is why our bodies, our spirit, they yearn for the redemption of the purchased possession. Come on and go with me here. Woo! See, this is what first fruits is all about, this spiritual significance. Okay? Now, I don't have time to go into these last two spiritual aspects. However, we have the 144,000 who is a sort of first fruit. Revelation. I don't have time to teach it, but I'm just going to mention it. An honorable mention. Revelation 14. And we're going to look at, oh, yes. These are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men, being the what? The first fruits unto the Most High and unto the Lamb. Okay, so we have this redeemed group of 144,000 set apart in purity because they were virgins, representing a righteous harvest to come. Come on and go with me here. And then the final first fruit is none other than Israel itself. Okay? Romans 11. And I'm done after this. Romans 11. And let's go to verse 16. Again, I recommend you read Romans 11. I love this chapter as well. Let's go to verse 16. Now, you have to remember what he's saying here in Romans 11. It's questioning whether or not Israel has been thrown away. And a lot of people who believe in replacement theology believes that the church has replaced Israel. Guys, completely unbiblical. Notice what he says here in verse 16. For if the first fruit be holy, the lump is also holy. And if the root be holy, so are the branches. So Paul is pulling from Numbers 15, where he's talking about a piece of dough, that leavening agent that sanctifies the entire batch. Okay? Paul applies this to Israel's patriarchs. Come on and go with me. The patriarchs. Okay? Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. They are the root and the first fruit of the nation of Israel. Come on and go with me here. And this is why he says here, in verse 1, I say then, has the Most High cast away his people? God forbid. For I am an Israelite, Paul says. I'm of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. God has not cast away his people, which he foreknew. Want ye not what the scripture says in Elias? How he maketh intercession to God against Israel, saying, Lord, they have killed thy prophets and digged down thy altars, and I am left alone, and they seek my life as well. Paul says, even though Israel is wilding out, come on and go with me here, like we were, they still have and listen, we still have an opportunity to come to Yeshua HaMashiach, which, by the way, is the only way to the Most High. Okay? So he says, Israel, there is a remnant in Israel that was the first fruit. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, which were the first fruit, which gave birth to and were the root of the rest of people coming into the belief in the Most High Yah through Yeshua HaMashiach. Right? And so, guys, I know I didn't do complete justice, but I pray that you understand a little bit about a little bit. I mean, just a little bit about first fruit and our dedication because of that. Doesn't Yah deserve all of our dedication? Not just to dedicate the first fruits to him, but to dedicate our life. Why? Because he made us his first fruits as well. Measure your level of dedication in all areas. And I want you to decide, does your level of dedication to the Most High, does it measure up to his dedication to you? Blessings and shalom.